So, hello everyone. Super excited to host this podcast today with JC. I'm so excited to have him here. And he's the co-creator of this app called Tripmix. It's an AI app that enables to curate your travel plans and stuff like that. I connected with JC, and then I kind of asked, "How do I like describe you?" And it's like, is he a product designer or an engineer or a UX engineer? I think we're kind of heading where the titles don't matter, and people are kind of doing multiple roles from designer to building like your own apps and launching and everything. He built this app with Rajiv, and they launched this, and people are actually using this product, which is very exciting. From a designer going from a design to like launch with using no code tools and stuff. And we'll dive deeper into how they kind of use Bravo Studio to kind of bring these ideas to life and launch this MVP to the market. This podcast is brought to you by Bravo Studio. They are a no-code app development platform that takes your Figma designs and converts that into a native app. There are awesome products that are built using Bravo Studio. One of them is Tripmix, which we are going to cover today with JC. It has a very simple workflow of able to take your Figma designs, put them into Bravo Studio, and connect to the back end, and then launching your product directly on the App Store and the Play Store where people can actually use it. So, which is very exciting, reducing a lot of cost and time that goes into launching a product. So, if you are a designer or a founder having an idea of your own and wanting to build your own app, and you don't have the technical abilities, or even if you have the technical abilities but want to launch something quickly in the market to iterate based on the customer feedback, check out Bravo Studio, and let's dive deeper into the podcast. And super excited to have you here, JC. To start with, like, we'd love to learn more about you and your journey of being a designer and a product creator and more. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Thank you so much, John, for having me. I'm super excited as well. I guess my journey, if I really get a bit philosophical, my journey as a designer started like when I was a kid, because I always wanted to draw or to be in art somehow. But then I ended up being or choosing like a more stable or predictable path, which was translation. So I worked for a few years as a translator. Then I even pivoted within the industry, but I became like a video game translator, so that was really cool. But then something else piqued my interest, so I basically became more and more interested in the graphic design world, and decided to pursue that more professionally. So I ended up doing a 1 year master's in graphic design, and yeah, there I learned everything there's to learn about graphic design, but really in general terms. And then started like becoming more interested in, okay, how do I make this happen, and how do I turn this into apps or websites that I see all around me? And that's when I started hearing about UI UX, and I said, okay, that's my thing. Like that's what that's what I'm going after. And yeah, I started like freelancing, doing some projects related to UI, UX, and then something else kind of happened. As I was working full time as a product designer, I also learned that there's a way for you as a designer to, well, basically build what you're designing and to turn that into real things, which is what I initially wanted. So that's why that's how I started becoming more interested in no code or low code tools. And that's how I got to know Bravo Studio. I started like tinkering with everything. And then right now I'm a product designer at Relief, which is a really cool product as well. Really cool people too. And on the side, I'm doing some freelancing and developing apps or MVPs or helping people to build them. And I also co-created Tripmix, as you said, this AI-powered travel app.
I love that journey. I think as designers, we go through like so many different career hoops and then kind of find that UX and it's like, oh, I found it. And now I think what we are also seeing, it's like expanding for being like combining design and low code and no code together. So that's very interesting to know that being a designer, you had that ability to actually build design as well as like launch this to the product with your team. And I know there's like a team behind this, but designer having that ability is like really amazing. Like, what inspired you and the team to start like Tripmix, and what that journey has been like?
Yeah, more than what I would say who. So it was Rajiv. So a big shout out to him. He's the original creator, and he had the idea of creating this travel app where you could monetize your trips, right? So he came to me with that idea, and I'm all about travel. And yeah, as I said, I'm also all about trying new stuff, and like at that point, I was becoming more familiar and more comfortable with no code and Bravo. So he came to me with that idea of building Tripmix, building an MVP that we could test with a few users and validate some hypotheses. And basically, we did that. And at a later point, we said, okay, this is something that we really want to build further, right? So we wanted to make it into an actual app. We wanted to have it on the app stores, and that's where we said, okay, this is going to be something that we're going to work on longer in time. So yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think you mentioned you were able to leverage like Bravo Studio to kind of bring these ideas to life. And I feel like not many designers have that, like the skill or that skill, right, to kind of able to take your ideas and bring that to life. I really like how you kind of leverage no code tools to kind of like bring your ideas to life. So it's definitely not, it's a different profession, right? Like able to understand development as well as design, it's like two different things. What challenges did you like kind of face while approaching that more of like a design engineer kind of a perspective, where you kind of understand a little bit of how backend works, they have data is connected to the app, and also like understanding from the design and the user center point of view? How, what were the challenges did you face, and how did you like kind of like overcome those things? Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm not sure I can summarize all the challenges because everything was a challenge as you are learning new stuff and new tools and everything. But definitely one of the main challenges that I can think of was underestimating the scope of the features that we had in mind. Um, so as I said, Rajiv came with an idea, and we wanted to build this into an MVP that we could launch and test quickly with a bunch of people. So um, it's always like that. Like, yeah, you think it's lean enough, but it's not always the case. It's often not the case. So I think the main challenge was not being able or failing to trim down the idea even more, so we could have a leaner and basically quicker MVP. And the way I think we actually solved that was we took a step back and we said, okay, we are spending too much time into little details that maybe have no value. So at that point, you need to think about that, think about the value that would bring to you. So is that something that people ask of the product? Is that something that it's really important? So when you take that step back and stop for a moment, then you're able to trim down the scope or the product. And that's what we did. And that's when we kind of accelerated the whole process. And yeah, we
Mhm.
had an MVP in a couple months that we used to gather feedback and build the initial foundation of the app.
Mhm. Yeah, that's awesome. Like in couple months, you're able to like, launch this to the market, and like kind of without having to like write the production code. And that takes a lot of time, right? And then you don't really get time to validate your product and everything. I think I really love the strategies and approach you all took, and like launched it out, and kind of like, probably that gave you a lot of data to iterate as well. Yeah, I think scoping, I completely understand, it starts very broad, and then like, oh my god, this is too much, and then you have to like narrow it down. Yeah. And Yeah,
Yeah.
we might not understand that on the design level, but once the product starts to get built, I think that's very important, and you kind of approach that both from design and as well as development mindset, I think, to bring that to life. So that's good. I think as a designer or even like startup founders, right, they always have like this itch to both design and develop and launch it very quickly. Like how should they like kind of approach this MVP launch when they might not have the all the skills to write the code for the production level code and to launch the app? Yeah.
I think it could be good for everyone, even like, I don't think it matters whether you have the skills or not, to
Hmm.
look for solutions that are outside or apparently outside of your reach. So today you have plenty of tools to do pretty much everything. So I never imagined that I would be creating an app when I was learning design. So, but I started looking into ways to do that, right? So, if I wanted to create an app, how would I go about it? I started asking people. I started like looking for things on Google, YouTube, etc. So, and that's how I got into no code or low code tools. And yeah, I think anyone can build anything today, to be honest. So they just have to, I guess, you just have to be more, yeah, interested. Like try to question everything that you know and looking for alternatives that are outside of your, yeah, I guess, reality.
Hmm. Yeah, I think you mentioned that interest and that having curiosity. I think that's very important because nowadays there's so many like AI tools and then like no code tools like Bravo Studio where you can take an idea and like launch it to the market very quickly. Yeah, I think you emphasize a lot on like the no code tools. Like, what's like your take on it, and how did you like figure it out as a designer? I think there's still, even in the no code tools, there are like API integrations and all that stuff you need to do, right? How did you like approach that when you are not very like technical about it, but now probably you are like you understand the scope of it things better, but when you're starting out, how did you approach like using no code tools like Bravo Studio to concept your ideas and stuff? Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm still figuring out. So I'm
Hmm.
not, I don't think I have it figured out, but that's the thing, right? Like I love being curious and learning about stuff constantly. So in the beginning, it was like overwhelming because I didn't know a thing about, like, if you asked me what a backend was, yeah, I had no idea. So I think, yeah, it was a lot of trial and error, like tinkering with stuff and trying out different approaches, different tools, different methods. So I guess one thing that did make it really easy, I would say, was using Bravo Studio, because Bravo lets you kind of turn your designs into pretty much the actual app. So with that, you already have the front end of your app, that it's pretty much the same thing you design on Figma, which you can do as a designer. So then connecting it to a backend, it's also pretty easy and seamless. So you get to see the whole product cycle, right? So you get to own the whole thing, and you can do updates on the app by just changing something on Figma, changing something on on the backend, and you get to see that immediately. So that really helped me a lot to visualize and to learn through, yeah, trial and error, I guess.
Yeah, I think understanding the whole product cycle is quite important, and I think that's where we are kind of heading towards, right? Like it's designers having to understand and code, and that's why we are seeing all this like design engineering roles and stuff like that. Do you think like that's something you see as a potential career emerging in the future for designers doing no code and kind of using like tools like Bravo Studio or other no code tools to like bring ideas to life? Like that's what's your take on that design engineering as a trend that's coming up? Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's a trend, so I don't know where it'll end up, but I definitely see a lot of people like taking on, yeah, on these hybrid roles between that exist with between design, engineering, product. So I think that's interesting for sure, and it's really beneficial for, I guess, for everyone, because for you as a designer, I think it's really beneficial because you, well, you get to see, as we said, like you get to see the whole cycle of an app, of a website platform. So you know what are the constraints, you know, what are the implications of your designs or your decisions, or um, and if anything, it makes you speak the same language as engineers or more technical people, because it, I think, at least to me, it gave me like a different perspective on things. Um, yeah, I would say it's beneficial for everyone, even if you're working at a really big company where it might seem like there's no um, place for you to, I don't know, like suggest a change or things like that. And also, if you're trying to be an entrepreneur or if you want to create something, yeah,
Hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. And I think everybody has that itch to kind of make one of their own apps, but it's just so hard to like figure out the entire logistic. And I think the tools are kind of heading, and also like I'm looking all this like AI tools, right? You just describe and it tries to code, but if you understand like the foundation, you can put together something very quickly. I'm super excited about that future. I want to like curious about, I hope Rajiv doesn't mind it me diving deeper into how using AI and stuff, but this product also has like the AI integration in it, right? And then how does that like AI APIs integration with the apps look like, and how are you kind of creating value for like the users using AI and stuff like that? And because for me, I can understand a no code tool can help you bring like a quick concept, but it's very interesting that you're like doing like API integration and stuff with like Bravo Studio and stuff. How does that process looks like of AI integration, and how are the tools kind of enabling you to do that? Yeah.
yeah. I will try not to give away the like the secret sauce, but at the same time explaining how we approach it,
Yeah.
and maybe the first thing is we needed a way to for users to accelerate speed up the process of creating a trip within the app, right? So um, in the beginning, you come to Tripmix, you want to create a trip, you create it manually, so you create a shell of a trip, and then you put different places in it. But then, of course, we jump onto the wagon of yeah, AI. Basically, we said, okay, maybe this is a really smart way to to build trips in Tripmix. So what we are doing is we're basically integrating OpenAI models into our backend, which is Shano, which is another no code or low code tool, and we are taking a prompt. So the user inputs something, so enters a text prompt, and then we're turning that into a ready-made trip. So a trip with all the places that we've kind of browsed through on the internet, and then you have something that you can then tweak and you can customize, and yeah, that's pretty much the innovative part, I guess.
Got it. Yeah, I'll try not to dive more deeper into it, the secret sauce with the company. But thanks for sharing that, because I love the possibility of building able to be AI enabled product, because AI tools, they kind of have this ability to like improve the workflow, right, or efficiency or synthesize data very quickly. And I feel like, okay, AI did start like a hype, but I'm seeing started to see like a value of it slowly by slowly, and then we are seeing like every product having these capabilities nowadays. So I think having that ability with like Browser Studio tool and stuff, able to integrate API, I think that's huge, and I really love that possibility. So I met the Bravo Studio, the CEO and the team members there. Yeah, they showed me like the demo as well, and I was quite fascinated. They took like the Figma screen and launched it, and then they showed me this like ability to change in Figma, and then it impacts the live production. I was like just mind blown with that ability, because it's not that easy, right? Like if you look at working for a larger company and stuff, to make like one change it takes like 2-3 months, but with this designers changing your impact to live production, it's a big responsibility. But what's your take on that, like ability to like iterate very quickly using tools like this, and them solving like the problems of updates and all that stuff? Like what's your take on that? Yeah.
I think it's great that you as a designer get to do that, because as you say, it's often the case that um, you have something in mind, you end up with your team deciding on what to build next, and then it takes like a couple of weeks, even months, as you say, to build that out. And when you see it live, it might be completely wrong, or it might no longer be valid, right? So I think if you're able to have that kind of instant connection between what you design and what you see in the live app, in the production app, that to me, that's as you said, like mind blowing, and it changes the whole thing and uh, the whole experience as a designer. So I think it's also really beneficial for the product, because you get to iterate really quickly, as you mentioned. So with Tripmix, we saw that we were able, and we've been, well, we're used to this now, but it's actually um, pretty rare that you get to do this in any product.
Yeah, that's very fascinating, because that's not a easy thing to do, right? And also, like especially like this podcast, along with designers, that like few startups and executives as well. I think for them, it's such a important thing to be faster to the market, because in startup, like speed is everything. I mean, depends on the context, but like, and it comes with the cost too, right? Like building a app, full-fledged app is very expensive, and what if they don't even know if people are going to use it or not? And I think it gives like designers such a strong power, because we are at the core, we are about people. So I think able to iterate quickly and not getting stuck with those technicalities, I think it's a amazing revolution that's happening with all this no code tool. And also the ability to kind of quickly bring this to market, and then reduce that time of updating and maintaining it, because you might know, like building app is one thing, but then maintaining it is like another whole beast. So it's very interesting, because companies like Bravo Studio and other no code tools are kind of solving that problem, because it's a website, it's different than an app. Right now website tools also are like bridging that gap between design and development now and stuff. And then I think with the app, it has always been a problem, and like web apps or like mobile apps, it's always a problem. So it's very interesting if they're kind of solving that workflow and cost and iteration issue and stuff. I'm very fascinated about it. What's like your take on designer learning to code, or to what extent they have to learn to code? Probably not the full-fledged production, because it's a whole discipline on its own. But what's like your take on that, them having to code, and to how much should we know to able to bring our ideas to life and stuff? Yeah.
As I mentioned before, I think it's only beneficial that you learn more about other stuff. As a designer, that might be engineering or product, or can be anything. I think, yeah, nowadays it's really easy to learn new things, right? So it's really easy to bridge that gap between different industries or disciplines. So I guess it is really beneficial to, as a designer, to know how to code, or how coding or programming works in general, because yeah, it really brings you closer to engineers. It makes you, as I said, speak the same language, and I've seen the benefits of that in my, well, in my daily job or in my full time job in other companies. So I'm I find myself challenging some of the, yeah, the comments or the worries from developers, or the other way around. I find myself being a bit more careful with what I design, or a bit more mindful. So I think it really helps in the product world. It's really beneficial.
Yeah, I think like you mentioned before, speaking the language of the other team, I think that's very valuable. And even if you don't, the designer don't know the complete production code, but at least you can understand the backend or how APIs are integrated, how your data you populated gets integrated. I think it's huge value, and I feel like that's where we are heading, and that we are seeing this rise of design engineering role. Yeah, I think this both debates around it, but I feel like it's definitely blending because of all these tools that are coming, and with the AI making it like easier to like learn. To that day I was using one of the new LLM as like, oh, can you write me the curriculum? And it wrote the entire curriculum. And I went, took that and like learned those concepts. And next thing I know, I know the subject a little bit better. So it's very interesting. I would love to know like how, you built no code tool. Sorry, not the you launched an app with using the no code tool, and also it's AI enabled, and you probably use AI in your workflow also. How do you use like AI in your workflow, and what's like your take on it as well? Yeah.
I think in my daily workflow, I use it, like I find myself using it for pretty much everything, to be honest. Maybe too much. I'm too reliant on it, but it's like a sparring partner for most of the decisions that I make daily. So right now I'm working, um, so in Relief, the company I'm working at, we're focused on growth, right? So there's a lot of um, quick decisions that we need to make in order to bring more users, revenue, etc. So I often find myself turning to ChatGPT and asking, hey, can this be a good strategy, or do you see any flaws to this, or what are some of the industry standards? Like, there's always something new to learn, and I find myself, instead of looking for something on Google, I find myself using AI for that. And yeah, I think there are many other areas in my like personal life that I use AI for, but yeah, uh, that's mainly it for the workflow. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's interesting because like I kind of I don't remember last time, going to like Google or something, but I've been lately using a lot of the cloud AI and chat gpt, and I'm like curious to try out the cursor AI as well, so it lets you write code. It's very interesting, and I think you could like take a little bit from here and there, and then put together in like a no code tools, and then able to bring your ideas to life. I think that's a huge revolution. And after watching this podcast, probably people might be curious like, hey, I have this idea, maybe like a recipe app, right? And they want to like create it because they might have unique recipes than the other. So if somebody's like inspired to build their own app after watching this podcast, what do you recommend? And let's say they are like a founder or a designer and might not have the technical abilities, or even if they have technical abilities, I think building an app is still an expensive uh, journey. So what's your take on that for people who want to build their own products and apps and bring it their ideas to life? Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it really depends on what you want to build. Um, there are things that might be more complex, and you might just need like a full on um, engineering team, or a whole different structure. But in general, I think you can pretty much validate your ideas with different strategies and different tools. So it might be just building a landing page and just bringing people to it and seeing if that sticks, if that moves the needle to your vision or something different. Like you can validate things pretty quickly that way. Um, and also, of course, like you can use no code tools like Bravo Studio, um, Framer, things like that to bring your idea to life in a really lean MVP manner. So the important thing is that you take your idea and make it something real, even if it's something really basic, and put it in front of people, because that's when the fun starts, and that's when the also the challenges start. So just take the leanest approach you can think of, and then challenge yourself on that, and try to be leaner even even then, and try to build it. Maybe it's a prototype, maybe it's a full app connected to a backend, maybe it's an app that's published to the store. But yeah, just take something, the leanest approach, and put it in front of people. That's
Mhm.
what I've learned so far.
Yeah, that makes sense. I've been into this product and the design space for almost 10 years now. And I've learned that all the time, like what you think and the feedback you get from your customer is like so different, and they'll always like surprise you. Oh, okay, I never thought of it. Or they like the feedback always surprises you. And I think it's very important for founders and like even like designers or product managers to kind of keep it lean, put it out there, and build, measure, learn. I think that's the framework I always believed in, to like build, measure, learn, and then your customer will tell you what to do next. So I think it's very interesting. Nowadays, tools are available to do that, because like design itself, like what do you say, like the 2D screens itself, like just taking feedback can help you to a certain extent. But I think when you want to go next level, like people actually use it in the real context and kind of get feedback. I think that's very interesting. Yeah, when I saw personally like Bravo Studio, I was like very curious to. So I'd written a book on helping designers land jobs. So I was like, maybe I should take this book and turn into an app so people can like read it chapter by chapter, because people
Nice.
like, yeah. So maybe I'm inspired to do that as well. So that's a itch I have. um yeah, I think we covered being lean. We covered about different roles you need to understand as a product person or a design person, and kind of build that from like a multidisciplinary mindset. What's like your next step with your career journey or your product building journey? What are you like looking forward to in terms of like technology or something that you're curious about? Yeah.
Oof, I don't know. I have no idea. That's
Yeah.
that's the thing. Like, um, I think so. Now I'm more focused on making more products. So making more apps. I wanna also learn more about web builders, like Framer or Webflow. So I wanna kind of be in that space of the indie development kind of area. So I think I just want to create, and whatever way or method I can use to do that, I will do it, or I will learn it. And apart from that, I of course have Tripmix, which is like also my little baby. So I want to see that through, and I want to yeah, I want to keep building it. And yeah, that's the best that I can think of. Like I'm figuring it out, and I will always be figuring it out, I think.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's the best part of being in that cycle of figuring out, because once you kind of like hit that saturation, there's not much exciting, but there's always like Yeah, I'm not curious, and I don't know. I want to go learn about it, and then I think that's a very exciting, and that's how I am as well. So I feel like always like, oh, I want to dive deeper into Bravo Studio. I want to dive deeper into like Framer, and then after I learned Framer, I want to like learn next like Shift UI. Always like in that stage of like being territory of unknown, and I think that keeps things very exciting. Yeah, I'm personally also exploring a lot of Framer and like doing a lot of uh, design development together, and it's very exciting to just have that power, to
Yeah,
able to do that at the same time. And then it also reduces the time to the market, and also iterate very quickly. And also like if I have like animations ideas or anything like that, you can directly do that with like the no code tools. So that's very interesting. Yeah, I'm super excited about seeing your journey growing Tripmix, and hopefully if when I'm traveling or planning my trip, I'll use that too. So I'm super excited to try it out. So yeah, I think if people like many people, you also might want to see your journey and what you're building and all that stuff like that, right? How can like people connect with you? What's like the best place to find JC? Yeah.
yeah. So the best place, I guess, it's so LinkedIn is, well, I guess it's the go to place for networking and connecting. So you can find me there under Juan Carlos Toledano Santos, which is a long Spanish name, but yeah, you can probably read it in the description or something. So and there you can find information about the projects that I worked on. Some of them about Tripmix, which is also on the App Store. And yeah, you can say hi, connect. I'm super happy to talk to anyone who's interested in basically in anything design, product, or no code related.
Mhm.
And I will be happy to chat about it. So yeah, say hi.
No, I love that because you're like, oh, connect me if you wanna, build a no code app and stuff. Because as a designer now we can do both, and then I think it's such a superpower to even say that like, hey, I can design but also help you take this to the market as well. I think that's very powerful, and yeah, definitely if the audience are wanting to connect with JC on LinkedIn, I'll put that everything in the description in the newsletter and YouTube and Spotify or Apple Podcast anywhere you are seeing or listening to this podcast, so you can connect with JC. Yeah, JC is very approachable. I reached out to him, and then he was like, all in to do this podcast. So that's awesome. Just to wrap things up, I would love to, kind of take a final take on the future of no code tools, and your recommendation how designers, founders, and innovators wanting to build their products, how do they kind of like approach it, and what do you recommend to take that idea, I want to have this idea, to taking it to the market where people actually can use it and in some extent even pay for it to sustain your product and stuff like that. What's like your take on that? Yeah.
I think um, I stand by what I said. Like if you have an idea, just look for the fastest or the leanest way possible for you to take that idea, put it in front of people. And I think no code tools are just a shortcut to do that. So that, of course, like the lean approach should be the mindset that you have in product or building products, but using or leveraging no code tools is a shortcut for you to do that. And that's really interesting to me that you see not only designers but also engineers or product managers or data scientists, like any kind of role, just stepping into creation or making products because you now have the tools. So I think another tip or something that I thought that I think was beneficial for me was joining a lot of communities around that. So there's a great community in around Bravo Studio. There's a great community for Shano. There's a great community for Webflow, like Framer. I'm sure there is one as well. So join that community, get help from people that have done what you're pursuing, and you'll eventually get there. So yeah, and then I think that's mainly it. The good thing about no-code tools as well is that they have integrations with pretty much everything. So if you wanna, as you said, make people pay for your product, there are a lot of integrations that you can bring into whatever no-code tool you're using to develop your app or your website, or and that's, to me, that's fascinating. That's a game changer.
Yeah, I think like we are seeing this trend with subscription based product, which is like helpful for users because they don't have to pay upfront and there's like less risk with that. And also for businesses, it's like a recurring revenue. So I think, like you mentioned, ability to integrate all those functions from other platforms and then connecting your data and integrating with other platform, I think that's huge because like tools like Bravo Studio, they kind of give that platform to do that, and kind of solving that workflow challenges we have to take from ideas to production. And yeah, building apps is expensive. People spend a lot of money if you have
Yeah,
to like hard code it. But yeah, I think, but also there's a huge potential in the app space of because these are accessible than a website, and people, many are like adopted or use the mobile phone and it's right in front of your, putting your business right in the fingertip of your business, your audience and the customer is pretty huge. Yeah, thank you for sharing all your insights and your take and your journey with us. It's been super insightful how you went from being exploring your career to finding becoming a designer and now like a product maker and kind of leveraging no code tools and kind of bringing these ideas to life. It's very interesting. And yeah, if anybody watching this podcast want to talk more about what he's doing, and also if you want an idea build out, please connect with JC. That's gonna be super exciting to work on a person who can do both design and then no code development and bring these ideas to life. So that's awesome. Yeah, and yeah, do subscribe to this newsletter and podcast and everything so that you get updated and stay updated with the industry trend and learn from awesome people like JC we had today talking about Bravo Studio and no code tool and design engineering and all that stuff. JC, thank you for being here again. I really appreciate you spending time and being part of the podcast. Anything that you love to say to the audience or want to like to share, I give the stage up to you and we can wrap it up. Yeah.
right. First of all, thank you, John, for having me, and also kudos to you for the awesome podcast and yeah, the content that you put out. Like, yeah, really, really inspiring as well. Um, yeah, nothing else. Please connect, say hi. If you have an idea that you would like to see built, as John said, just reach out to me, and I will gladly help. And that's it. And subscribe to the channel.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I think that's much needed. Thank you so much, JC, again. And thank you, everyone, for staying for around 45 minutes and listening to JC and his journey. And I think we learned a lot from being lean strategies and using no code tools like Bravo Studio, and also kind of excited about the future where it's empowering designers, founders, and product managers to kind of bring their ideas to life to the market quickly and validate it and build products that are useful for people. Thank you, JC, again, and I'll see you all in another episode. Thank you.